Good morning, everyone. I'm incredibly privileged to be here. I'm one of the people who got a travel grant to be here, so I wouldn't have stood here if it wasn't for Chan Zuckerberg initiative that gave money to fly all the way from South Africa all the way here. I am, just hold on. That's not going. Okay. All right, my name is Lize Engelbrecht. I am the manager for fluorescence microscopy and confocal at Stellenbosch University. I have my main activity at the moment outside of my job of core facility manager is working with the ABIC. I'm the coordinator of the teaching, education, training, education, and awareness working group. And we are working on a nice extensive curriculum for the African community. I didn't put a lot of that into this presentation because I focused on the South African bioimaging group, but my main work currently is on ABIC. When I told Professor Ben Lewis, who's the main person for South Africa bioimaging, that I have the travel grant, I'm coming, he had to say that he can unfortunately not come. So how about I represent South Africa bioimaging as well, as I've been involved in some of the activities in the past, and I work very closely with Prof. Ben Lewis. So just to tell you about where it started, Prof. Ben Lewis, for those of you who don't know, this is Prof. Ben Lewis. He started South Africa bioimaging with Trevor Sewell. Another person who's involved, we think from the start, was Professor Dirk Lang, and it was established in 2016, probably close to the start of many of the communities here. Nowadays, the team has changed a bit, and Dr. Karen Jacobs and Dr. Mike Reich is also involved now, as well as one of Prof. Ben Lewis's previous PhD students, a colleague who was a colleague of mine, Dr. Dumisile Lumkwana. And I am going to push for more involvement there myself as well. So you will see that the main role players in South Africa bioimaging is mainly University of Cape Town and University of Stellenbosch University, and the four people I've just mentioned, which I will discuss a little bit further in the next slide. One of the highlights of the past, or I would say past months or year or so, is that the South Africa bioimaging logo has been established. It's available. I've seen it in quite a few slides now. It's official, and that was due to the work of Dr. Mike Reich. Previous events of the South Africa bioimaging was the first meeting. It wasn't official bioimaging South Africa yet, because I don't think that the memorandum of understanding was signed yet, but it was at this meeting where it all started in October 2016. And then we did another follow-up meeting in 2018 October, and that was an official South Africa bioimaging meeting. Now, there was a bit of a quiet time, especially during COVID, but for 2021, 2022, Professor Lewis secured some funding for an event again. On a different route, I connected with Leon through ABIC, and I found out that Ben and Leon also planned basically training in South Africa, a symposium, etc. And I said, hold on, let's do it together. So the events that happened in the past year was we did a Fiji analysis workshop at Stellenbosch University, where Dr. Leon presented his very, very well. Many of you might have attended it before, and then we grouped that together with the symposium that Ben had planned with the funding that he got, and the focus was on the South African bioimaging landscape. It was a lot of biomedical presentations, so it shows that our community of bioimaging scientists are mainly focusing on the diseases that is prevalent in South Africa. Sorry, it is going a little bit fast for me. Right, so now where to from here? I've showed you what we've done. The identity of SABI now is slightly, I don't want to say uncomfortable, but we need to kind of decide what is going on. South Africa as an imaging community can play a leading role in Africa. In ABIC, how do I stop it going? I'm going to hold my hand here. Right, in ABIC itself, where I'm very involved in, the majority of members are actually South African imaging scientists. So there's definitely a very strong community of imagers or imaging scientists in South Africa. Another thing that we've noticed is in the past few years, the new generation of scientists are emerging because a lot of the previous generation has retired. They're just not there anymore. Trevor Sewell is already one of the people who retired. So there's a whole lot of people emerging, and we need to actually gather them together and engage them actively in this community. Now, one of the challenges is that in South Africa, there are a lot of people who want to start things or continue with things. So they are quite disconnected or fragmented. There's a few imaging communities. Currently, EMSA, the Microscopy Society of Southern Africa, they are an old society. They started I don't even know when they started. I went to a few of the conferences. They're focusing a lot on academic output. There's an academic conference every year. They don't only focus on bioimaging. Life sciences is actually a small portion of it. They do a lot of material sciences as well. They're not only for South Africa, they're for Southern Africa. Then ABIC, ABIC is focusing on bioimaging itself, but for the whole of Africa. You've heard from Karen and from Leon what African bioimaging is about. And then there's another initiative that started in a whole different avenue, is the African Inclusive Microscopy. Someone mentioned it here as well. I don't know much about them, but that's a whole different story. And it shows that there's so many avenues that what happens in South Africa, a lot of the imaging scientists starts to choose. And it's very difficult to push anything forward at this stage. And then the question is now, what should SABI do about this? And what is the identity of SABI amongst all of these? Now, which is what important is that it's a South African bioimaging community. So we want to establish, the next project is to establish an online platform or a website to showcase the work of the South African researchers, but also to connect all these, or form a connection between all of these communities. All of those communities, I just quickly want to go back to that. Microscopy Society of Southern Africa, although it's not only South African, their main hub is the University in PE, South Africa, and also Pretoria, South Africa. If the African Bioimaging Consortium, the majority of members from Western Cape, Stellenbosch and UCT. African Inclusive Microscopy, although it's African, its hub is Wits University in South Africa. So we have a lot of people in South Africa, and SABI can play a role in connecting all of these and making sure that we don't work against each other, but actually connect each other and work together as a parallel platforms and reach further, although we're focusing on different things, but not feeling that we are competing against each other. So the whole idea with the website is to showcase South African researchers and then connect the imaging societies, the core facilities. There are actually a few core facilities in South Africa. They are not connected at all. I don't know the new people always. I know the people who retired. And then also to give the young imaging scientists a platform and connecting them to the core facilities and whatever opportunities there are. Hopefully this online platform would feed into 3 or 4 of the United Nations SDGs. Firstly, I forgot to put something here. We also want to start sharing more protocols that's specific for the South African context. So as I said, in our symposium, it was clear that the research is focusing on good well-being and health and issues of disease in South Africa. Also, one of the big problems in South Africa is unemployment. And you would think, okay, unemployment, that means the poverty. It's not just the poor who don't get jobs. There's a lot of people, postgraduate students, who go out of the system and wait 1 year to 2 years before they actually get employed, or they go overseas. A lot of them get overseas opportunities, which is fine. I believe in go find out what people do over there, just bring it back to South Africa. But if we can have a platform where we showcase these imaging scientists, we could potentially contribute to decent work and economic growth in South Africa. Of course, we also contribute to the quality education. If we feed back into ABIC, ABIC is very strong in education, the working group that I'm part of. So if we can build that connection between SABI and ABIC, we will contribute to the quality education as well. And then, as you will see on the left-hand side with those 4 points, 3 points, connection, connection, connection. We need to build the partnerships in South Africa between all of these imaging societies. So to ensure progress, we haven't started yet, or there's a start. There's a landing page for the website so far, but it needs to build now, from now. So it's a very small team. Karen and Mike is very involved in ABIC, so they can't build the website. I'm involved in ABIC, so we need a bigger community in South Africa. So we want to start inviting the core facilities to join. Dumisile Limkwana, she's going to basically be responsible to build this website. And then we need to look at, I thought, websites by themselves not always the best way to reach people. What other online platforms are really efficient to start spreading the news? We don't only have websites these days. And then we need to collect content. I think that's where we are stuck. We need to get a list of, we want to showcase the scientists, so we need to showcase their publications specifically from South Africa. We want to start sharing protocols and best practices of research that's specific to South Africa. For example, TB is a very, very strong research field in South Africa. What are the protocols and standards that TB researchers need to know to implement in their imaging endeavors? Then profiles of the core facilities. As I said, we don't really know exactly what each of us are doing and what are we strong at. Then we will also there's more and more opportunities, of course. We can provide videos for the general public to showcase the possibilities and hopefully help in the career paths of these new imaging scientists in South Africa. Okay, that finishes it for me. I would like to thank again Jan Zuckerberg Initiative for me to be here. My own institution had to cover for some of the costs that was not part of the travel grant. So I would like to also thank my institution. I'm part of South Africa BioImaging, I'm part of EMSA, I'm part of African BioImaging, and hopefully by being part of it all, we can connect these imaging facilities and make an impact. Okay. Thank you.